Every so often, we encounter someone who is advanced beyond her years. Today, we will be talking to a teenager who wields the pen just as well as many of the great in writing. Hello, I'm Risa Cervantes and this is UPTV Online Profile Student Edition. And joining us today is someone who has won 3 Palanca Awards in writing at the ripe old age of 19. Let's meet Miro Capili. Watch this.
The Don Carlos Palanca Memorial Awards, dubbed as the Pulitzer Prize of the Philippines, is an award any Filipino writer would want to receive at least once in their life. This is Miro Capili, a fourth-year political science student in UP Diliman. She won the Palanca Awards not once, nor twice, but 3 times. Ever since she was young, Miro was exposed to Palanca short stories her father used to bring home. This later on influenced her to join the contest when she grew up. In 2008, she won her first Palanca Award for the Kabataan Essay category with her piece entitled Rated X. She followed this up in 2010, where she won 2 categories, the Kabataan Essay and the Essay category, for her essays Nature and Nurture and Vinyl. Her writings have continued to inspire many people, for she writes with her heart and with the intention to reach her audience. Miro Francis D. Capili, writer, 3-time Palanca awardee, UP student.
Thank you for joining us today, Miro. We'd like to know about the influences and experiences that shaped you as a person and, in effect, as a writer. So, your father is, of course, the renowned artist and photographer Ross Capili. And I know that artists are often stereotyped as eccentric, so which probably made things interesting for you growing up. So, how was it like to have an artist as a father?
Well, I suppose it wasn't much of the fact that he was an artist as it was the environment that he and my mother, of course, cultivated us. So he would expose us to books early on, and we started reading, I think, at the age of 3, my sister and I. And also, we would visit other countries, he would visit local destinations, and he also exposed us to the art scene early on, so we would attend his exhibits and mingle with his colleagues. Yeah.
So you mentioned once that great writers motivate you to write, while the best ones move you to live. So are there people who inspire you to do both?
Yes, of course. There are other writers who, of course, I know personally because I would have to know them to be able to be inspired by them. But more than that, I think there are people who can do one of them better than the other. So there are, of course, my friends, my family members who have always been there despite my mercurial temperament. And also, like what you said earlier, if there are hybrids, I would say those people are the ones who have pursued a more social stance in producing literature. So some of them are my friends, and others are simply personalities whom I wish I met at some point in my life.
Also in Rated X, your first Palanca Award-winning essay, you mentioned places like Cubao X, Raon, Hidalgo, places that most teenagers nowadays probably don't even know about. So how did you become interested in those places?
Going back to your earlier question, I owe that kind of knowledge to my parents. So they would also bring us to those places. And if they didn't bring us or take us there, they would tell us about these places. So Hidalgo is actually the place where my father would buy his cameras. And that's also where I get my camera supplies. And Raon is where he gets his vinyl supplies, the supplies for his vinyl records. And also, Cubao X is a place I used to visit to buy trinkets. So there were old books and antiques.
Well, as a writer, what kind of insights do you draw from these kinds of places?
Well, you'd see that there's a different psychogeography to every place. So a place is not only a place. And I read before that true places aren't on the map or aren't on maps. So there are places that you create, places that are assembled and reconfigured through memory, whether collective or private. And so, given the context of your question, I suppose, for instance, Cubao X is somewhere I used to go frequently just to marvel at the things that I wanted to buy. And the other places were, I suppose, places which brought back several memories which I hold dear.
Now that we've learned a bit more about the people and places that inspire Miro, when we come back, we'll talk about the writing skills of Miro, and we'll find out just how on earth a 19-year-old was able to incorporate words like laconic and phantasm in her essays. We'll be right back. Welcome back. I'm Risa Cervantes, and again, this is UPTV Online Profiles Student Edition. And still with us is Miro Capili, an award-winning writer. And earlier, Miro Capili we talked about the people and the places that inspired her. And now we will talk about more of her writing styles. So, your writing style is incredibly verbose. You average probably 20 or 30 words per sentence, and you use words like laconic and phantasm, words which most of us probably never heard in our lives. So how does this style help you get your message across?
Well, that's an interesting question. Actually, of late, I started trying to write poetry, so that requires an entirely different kind of language even. Because of course, there are certain pressures which the clean white page cannot handle when you write poetry. And I suppose I've tried to approximate that as well with the newer prose works that I'm coming up with. But regarding your question, I think it's, of course, the prerogative of the writer. And the kind of language that I assimilated was born from a fixation with language. And I've been called out on that many times, actually. But I suppose it's always found its way in my works. And it wasn't something that I tried to control. Although when I was younger, I admit that I was more reckless with my use of words. At least now, I try to select the words which I think would put across the point with clarity, but with finesse, I suppose, and with some personal touches as well. So basically, I've been trying to be clearer, more concise, but still retain that particular love for language that has always driven me to write.
So those who know you well enough as a writer know that you never consider your essays finished. They're just in their least nascent state. So parang hindi dumago yung ilong namin dito, no? Pwede mo bang ipaliwanag kung ano yung least nascent state? Ano ibig sabihin mo dun?
Yung least nascent state, ibig sabihin, di ba nascence, yung birth, which I think is a take-off point for how I approach writing, or at least writing essays. So I see this nascent state as being that state wherein you can still revise a lot, I suppose, because I approach writing in different stages. So I have the stage of gestation, so I have to process everything first before I can get to create or write the work itself, and then I also have to revise, which I haven't been doing as scrupulously as writing. So I've also been trying to work on that stage, the stage of revision. And what I meant by least nascent state was that it's, at least spatially or chronologically speaking, it's the farthest point that I can get before getting the work published. For this point from the time that I started writing the essay.
So, at what point do you consider your career as a writer at its least nascent state?
I'm not sure. Probably never. I hope never, so that so that I never run out of stress or that motivation to keep on writing. I don't believe that, or at least, well, it's entirely a personal thing. But I don't believe that one should call himself or herself a writer, or at least take pride in that and stop writing just because you've won awards. So you have to keep on going, and you have to earn that. You have to earn that title or the right to call yourself a writer, because it's also a socially constructed thing. It's bestowed upon you, I suppose.
Okay. Thank you for having us. Thank you for guesting, Miro. It's just really great having you here.
Thank you for having me.
So, once again, this is Risa Cervantes, and this is UPTV Online Profile Student Edition. Miro's love for language and never-ending journey to become a better writer are humbling reminders of life's two secrets to success: passion and hard work. As we take our journey from our gestative states to our least nascent states, may we, just like Miro, never forget the people who have helped make us who we are today. I am Risa Cervantes, and this is UPTV Online Profiles Student Edition.